Hi, this is Marek from Tryb Solo. Today I'd like to show you a game called Vengeance Roll and Fight Episode 2 from Mighty Boards. Thanks for sending the game for review. And this is Episode 2. They also have Episode 1, but they are separate games that you can combine together, but you don't need Episode 1 to play Episode 2. And Vengeance Roll and Fight is a game based on a Vengeance board game, also from Mighty Boards. I didn't play Vengeance, but from what I know, this is a action game where you are a vigilante and you fight some gangsters, bad guys, and some mob bosses. And you do the same here. You just use dice and you roll and you write and you fight. Because in this game you're a vigilante who goes back to a mob gangster's den, and you want revenge, you want to defeat the bad guys, and you want to kill the final boss. You will use your dry erase boards and markers and a lot of dice to activate different abilities. There are also some real-time elements, because if you play solo, you will have a specific number of seconds to roll or re-roll your dice. If you play multiplayer, all players will share the same dice pool, but they will take dice from and roll them. So you also have to be hurry in order to take dice before other players do, because this is not a cooperative game, this is a PvP. So you play against other players and you try to score more points than your opponent. Let me show you how this game plays, and then I will tell you what I think about Vengeance Roll and Fight. This is Vengeance Roll and Fight, prepared for a solo game, but if you play multiplayer game, the setup looks more or less the same. Every player gets a player board and a den board, and players play against each other, compete with each other, and try to score more points than the opponent. The play area basically contains two elements. One is player board. This is where you will track your abilities, training points, health points, the items that you have. In the game you have 4 different characters, and every character has got different items and different abilities that you will be able to acquire, to buy, spending training points during the game. Here are the other heroes. You have Reverend Grey, Runa Bolt, and Meat Boy. The other part of the game is the den board, and this is where you will move, fight the bad guys, and try to kill and defeat the final boss of every den. The den board is double-sided. You get 5 den boards in the game. They are double-sided, so you can choose any den board you like, and you have to play and kill the boss, fight the bad guys. You also have to choose a boss. There are a few bosses in the box that you can choose from. They have different health, but they have also different abilities that trigger during the game. So you will be able to fight the bosses, and they change the gameplay a little. How do you play the game? The game plays over 4 rounds, and each round starts with rolling the flashback dice. You roll the dice, and depending on the symbols on the flashback dice, you can do a few things. If you roll hard, you can heal, or you can acquire more health points. If you roll star, you will get loot. If you roll this symbol, you can get item. This symbol gets you training points, and the last symbol, spyglass, gets you you can activate one of your abilities, so you will not have to spend dice to use this ability once during the next part of your round. So this is also the part of the game where you will be able to spend your training points. You have different abilities. You can acquire maximum 4 abilities during the game. You have 4 basic abilities, and you can buy four more abilities. If you want to have more, you can swap them. They have a cost shown here, and they do different things. Like this one, if you spend this symbol on the dice that you will roll a little later, you can hit twice and shoot someone. And if you buy this ability, your shoot has +1 room range, because normally when you shoot someone, you can shoot from room to an adjacent room, but with this ability you can you have +1 range of your shoot. So depending on your play style and of your plan to clear the den, you can get different abilities. And after you roll the flashback dice, you will start rolling the fight dice. The number of the red dice that you have here depends on the player count if you play multiplayer, and depends on the difficulty level if you play the game solo. You always have to take 4 dice, you have to roll them, and you have to match different symbols that are on the dice with the abilities that you have. And let's say I have here 3 knives, so I can use 3 knives to use my punch ability. And I have 1 die left. I can take 3 more dice again, so I have again 4 dice in my hand. I can roll them again. If I don't like the symbols, I can re-roll them. The only rule is that you cannot re-roll a die with this symbol here, because this is the health symbol, and if you have a die like this, you cannot re-roll it. So if I, let's say, roll something like this, I can re-roll the 3 remaining dice, but I cannot re-roll this one. If I had more dice with this droplet, I can put the droplet die here. It means that I will lose health later, and I can re-roll remaining droplet die in my dice pool. And you roll the dice as many times as you want. You can re-roll them. You just have to remember that you cannot re-roll a die with this symbol. And you try to put different symbols, match different symbols on die with different abilities. So let's say I have this and I can move. If I have gun and knife, I can shoot. But how long can you re-roll the dice? If you play multiplayer game, all players have the same dice pool, so you have to be fast with rolling and re-rolling, because other players will also take the dice from the same dice pool. So if you are slow, they will take the dice from you, so you will not be able to activate a lot of abilities. And if you play solo, you have a timer. If you play on easy mode, you have 45 seconds to roll, to re-roll, to spend dice on different abilities, but you have to do everything in 45 seconds. After 45 seconds, you have to stop, and you have to use the abilities that you were able to activate. So this is like a real-time game. It's a bit stressful, but really, really fun. And in the next part of the round, you will use the abilities that you were able to activate on performing different actions on the den board. You will move from room to room. You will hit different baddies, or you will shoot them. You will try to defeat the boss. Every room has different type of baddies. These are grunts. They are most basic. The baddie with the shield is called blocker, and when you are in a room with a blocker, you cannot go to another room before you kill it. Before you kill the blocker, you have a tough guy, and you need to spend two hits to kill him. And there is a henchman, and if you end your round in a room with a henchman, you will lose 1 health point. And this is a shooter, gunman. If you end your round in a room adjacent to a gunman, you will also lose 1 point of your health. So you have to cleverly navigate from room to room, kill the baddies. Here you can mark, because this board are dry erase, so you can write on them. You will mark the rooms that you visited. Sometimes when you clear a room, you will get stars, and you can spend the stars on this loot track, and it will give you points at the end of the game. Some rooms have some special bonuses that you can trigger if you perform some specific tasks. Like here you will get 4 points if you kill 4 grounds, and here you will get 3 points if you visited 6 rooms. You will also get points for hitting the boss and for killing the boss. And after spending the abilities that you activated with your dice, the round ends, and again you will roll the flashback dice, then you will roll the red dice, activate different abilities, and the whole game takes 4 rounds, and after that you will calculate your score. In a multiplayer game you have to get more points than your opponents, and if you play solo, for example in easy mode, you have to score at least 18 points to win the game. On different medium hard difficulty levels you have to get more points. So depending on the difficulty levels in a solo game, you will have more dice or you will have less dice. You will have different time to roll the dice, and you will have to score different points to win the game. So this is more or less how you play Vengeance Roll and Fight. Let's go to the summary. I really like roll and write games, and if you follow my channel you know that, because many times I have written about roll and write games, and Vengeance Roll and Fight is a great roll and write game. It's an action game. You can think of movies by Quentin Tarantino where there is a lot of action, a lot of blood, a lot of absurd action moves and motives, but it's fun and it's enjoyable, and the same thing is here. I love that you have a lot of content inside this box, because if you have 10 gangsters dens that you can choose from, you have 4 different heroes, and each hero has different abilities, different items that you can use during your game, and every den has a different layout and setup, and they have different rooms with different bad guys. You have a lot of different bosses that you can choose from, and each boss, apart from having different number of life points, they have some abilities that affect the game. Also your heroes, they have some negative abilities as well that affect your game. So if you mix everything together and you choose different den and boss and hero, there's a lot of replayability here, just in one of the episodes. And if you have both episodes, if you combine everything together, this is like awesome. You can play this game and never be bored. The real-time element is really fun. I'm talking about playing solo. I'm not good at real-time games because it's stressful for me when I see a timer ticking down, and I know that I have less and less time to do different things. But in this game, it's not a problem because it's very thematic. If you think about these action movies where you have a lot of action and heroes and fighting and killing and so on, like John Wick or Tarantino movies, they are very chaotic. And when you have 45 seconds to roll the dice in easy mode here, it's also very chaotic, so it fits the theme of the game. But it's cool that you have these dice and you have different abilities, and you have to match specific dice with the abilities that you want to trigger and activate. It's really fun and enjoyable. So it also doesn't really feel like a typical roll and write games, because for me, apart from some examples like Hadrian's Wall or Flip the Dice game, a lot of roll and write games, they are quite simple, and they are just like filler games. And this one doesn't feel like one. It feels like a more gamer game, more advanced one. Even though the gameplay is quite fast, because you only play 4 rounds. But after you play the game, you don't feel like you played a filler game. You feel like you played a cool board game. So this is really nice. The production is also great, because you get a plastic insert that holds everything. You have a lot of dice, the dry erase boards. You can write on every element in this game, even the abilities and items. So you can write, you can erase. It's really cool. It's much better than having a sheet of paper that you have to, you know, use your pen on it. With dry erase board you can, you know, play 500 times and still use it. So it's cool. And if you like action games and, you know, fun games and light games, because this is not very complex game, then just Roll and Fight is a great option. Which episode is better, I'm not sure. I think the second one, this one has more bosses than the episode 1, but I'm not 100% sure. I will try to get episode 1 as well, because this game will stay in my collection for sure, and having episode 1 will give me even more option with more levels, more scenarios, more you know, bad guys and more heroes. I'm not 100% sure if playing with more players, how fun is playing with more players, because I've played this game solo, just like my channel says, Tryb solo mode. I'm not sure how it plays when you have the same dice pool and all players have to take dice from them, because if someone is like slower and needs more time to reroll dice and to, you know, match dice with abilities, this person can have less fun than other players that are faster. But if you play solo, you play against the clock, so it's really fun. And even if you play multiplayer, each player has its own character board and bad guys den, so it's kind of multiplayer solitaire, because the only interaction between player is this moment when you have the shared dice pool that you take dice from. But apart from that, every player tries to score maximum points using his board and den, so it feels more like playing a solitaire game. So for solo, I think this is a great option. Click the like button if you like this video, subscribe to my channel if you want to see more videos about games that can be played solo. Visit me on Instagram, on Twitter, on Facebook, you will get more photos from this game there. And thank you for watching, see you next time, bye bye.